What truly happens in an interrogation room? You've seen it countless times in movies and TV shows. The dimly lit room, the suspect sweating under the harsh light, the detective leaning in, whispering, cajoling, accusing. But how much of that is real? How much is Hollywood? And how much is a meticulously crafted psychological dance designed to break down defenses and extract the truth, or a confession? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most intense, high-stakes environments known to law enforcement, the interrogation room. Forget everything you think you know, because what happens in there isn't just about good cop, bad cop. It's about psychology, manipulation, human nature, and the desperate search for answers. And often, it's about a battle of wills that can change lives forever. We're going to dissect the tactics, the tells, the subtle cues, and the outright tricks that interrogators use. We'll explore why some confessions are rock solid while others crumble under scrutiny. And we'll even touch upon the ethics of it all. So, if you've ever wondered what it's truly like to be on either side of that table, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at an interrogation scene the same way again. The Reid Technique, a controversial blueprint. Let's start with the elephant in the room, or rather, the blueprint in the interrogation room, the Reid Technique. Developed in the 1940s by former Chicago police officer John E. Reid, this is arguably the most influential and widely taught interrogation method in North America. It's so prevalent, you've probably seen its principles in action without even realizing it. The Reid Technique operates on a few core beliefs. First, that it's possible to tell if someone is lying based on their behavior. Second, that most guilty suspects will not confess spontaneously, and therefore, interrogators must use psychological tactics to elicit a confession. And third, that it's okay to use certain deceptive practices to achieve that goal. It breaks down into 9 steps, but for our purposes, let's simplify. It starts with non-confrontational questioning to establish baseline behavior. Then, if the interrogator believes the suspect is guilty, they transition to direct confrontation, presenting evidence, real or fabricated, of the suspect's involvement. This is where the psychological pressure truly begins. The interrogator might minimize the crime, offer moral justifications, or even feign sympathy, all while refusing to accept denials. The goal is to break down resistance, create a sense of hopelessness, and eventually lead the suspect to believe confessing is their best option. Now, before you jump to conclusions, it's crucial to understand why this technique, despite its effectiveness in some cases, is also incredibly controversial. It's been linked to false confessions, particularly among vulnerable individuals. The pressure, the isolation, the deceptive tactics, they can be a potent cocktail, sometimes leading innocent people to confess to crimes they didn't commit, just to make the ordeal stop. We'll delve deeper into that ethical minefield shortly, but first, let's explore some of the subtle psychological tools at play. Beyond the structured steps of something like the Reid Technique, skilled interrogators employ a vast arsenal of psychological tactics, some subtle, some not so subtle. Think about the environment itself, the sterile room, the hard chairs, the lack of windows, the constant feeling of being watched. It's designed to disorient, to isolate. It's not a friendly place. Then there's the power dynamic. The interrogator is in control. They dictate the pace, the topics, even the breaks. They might offer a glass of water, a cigarette, a moment of kindness to build rapport, only to snatch it away. This hot and cold approach can be incredibly disorienting. One common tactic is maximization and minimization. Maximization is when the interrogator exaggerates the evidence, the severity of the crime, and the consequences. "We have your fingerprints all over the weapon. It's over. Just tell us what happened." Minimization is the opposite, downplaying the crime, offering excuses, suggesting it was an accident or a momentary lapse. "Look, we understand. Things happen. Maybe you just snapped. It's not the end of the world. We can help you." Both are designed to make a confession seem like the most appealing option. Another powerful tool is the false evidence ploy. This is where interrogators lie about having evidence that doesn't exist: a fake DNA report, a non-existent witness, a surveillance video that never happened. This is highly controversial, but still legal in many jurisdictions in the US. Imagine being told your best friend just confessed and implicated you when they're actually still in another room. The psychological impact can be immense. And let's not forget the good cop, bad cop routine. It's a cliche for a reason. It works. One interrogator is aggressive, accusatory, and intimidating. The other is calm, sympathetic, and understanding. The good cop then becomes the suspect's perceived ally, making them more likely to open up. These aren't just tricks, they're deeply rooted in understanding human vulnerability, the desire for relief, and the psychological need to make sense of a chaotic situation. And when applied by a seasoned professional, they can be incredibly effective, for better or worse. Now, let's flip the script. If you're on the other side of that table, or if you're just observing, what are the tells? What signals are interrogators looking for, and what might a suspect inadvertently reveal? Body language is a huge one. While no single gesture is a definitive sign of guilt or innocence, patterns can emerge. A suspect who is overly defensive, arms crossed, avoiding eye contact, constantly shifting, these could be signs of discomfort or deception. Conversely, someone who is overly cooperative, providing too much detail unnecessarily, or contradicting themselves might also raise red flags. Micro-expressions are fleeting facial expressions that last only a fraction of a second, revealing true emotions that a person might be trying to conceal. A quick flash of anger, fear, or disgust can be incredibly telling. However, interpreting these correctly requires extensive training and is far from an exact science. Verbal cues are just as important. Evasive answers, repeating the question, using qualifiers like "to the best of my recollection" or "I believe," or asking questions back to the interrogator instead of answering directly, these can all be indicators of someone being less than forthcoming. A sudden change in vocal tone or pitch can also be a sign of stress or deception. But here's a critical point. Context is everything. What might be a tell for one person could simply be anxiety for another. Someone who is genuinely innocent but terrified might exhibit many of the same behaviors as someone who is guilty. This is why relying solely on behavioral analysis without corroborating evidence is so dangerous. It's a piece of the puzzle, not the entire picture. This brings us to the most disturbing aspect of interrogation: false confessions. It's not just a theoretical risk, it's a documented, tragic reality. The Innocence Project, for example, states that false confessions have contributed to approximately 27% of wrongful convictions overturned by DNA evidence. That's nearly 1 in 3 people who confess to a crime they didn't commit. Why does this happen? The intense psychological pressure we discussed earlier is a major factor. Imagine being isolated for hours, even days, being relentlessly accused, told that evidence proves your guilt and that your only way out is to confess. Add to that sleep deprivation, hunger, and fear, and even the strongest wills can break. Vulnerable populations are particularly susceptible. Juveniles, individuals with intellectual disabilities, or those with mental health issues are far more likely to buckle under pressure. They might not fully understand their rights, or they might be more eager to please authority figures. Some confess just to escape the interrogation room, believing they can retract it later, unaware of how difficult that becomes once a confession is on record. There are 3 main types of false confessions. 1. Voluntary false confessions. These are given without prompting from police. Think of people seeking notoriety, suffering from mental illness, or trying to protect someone else. 2. Coerced compliant false confessions. The suspect knows they are innocent, but confesses to escape an unbearable interrogation, to receive a promised benefit, like going home, or to avoid a threatened punishment. This is the most common type linked to wrongful convictions. 3. Coerced, internalized false confessions. This is the most chilling. Here, the suspect actually comes to believe they committed the crime, even though they didn't. This often happens after prolonged interrogation, isolation, and the presentation of fabricated evidence that makes them doubt their own memory. The consequences are devastating. Innocent people imprisoned, lives ruined, and the actual perpetrator remains free. This is why the debate around interrogation techniques is so fierce and so vital. So, given these risks, what's being done? The landscape of interrogation is slowly but surely evolving. One of the biggest pushes is for mandatory electronic recording of interrogations. This means video and audio from start to finish. Why is this so crucial? It provides an objective record of what transpired, protecting both the suspect from coercive tactics and the police from false accusations of misconduct. It helps judges and juries assess the voluntariness of a confession and can shed light on the dynamics of the interrogation. Another significant development is the move away from confession-driven interrogation towards information-gathering approaches. Techniques like the PEACE model, preparation and planning, engage and explain, account, closure, evaluation, focus on building rapport and eliciting accurate information rather than solely pursuing a confession. It emphasizes open-ended questions, active listening, and minimizing deceptive practices. This is gaining traction in the UK and other parts of Europe. There's also increased awareness and training regarding vulnerable populations. Many jurisdictions are implementing policies that require attorneys or guardians to be present during the interrogation of juveniles or individuals with cognitive impairments. And finally, the legal system itself is adapting. Courts are becoming more scrutinizing of confessions, especially those obtained through questionable means. Expert testimony on false confessions is more readily admitted, helping juries understand the complex psychological factors at play. While progress can be slow, the goal is clear: to ensure that justice is served, that the truth is found, and that the interrogation room, while still a place of intense pressure, becomes a more ethical and reliable tool in the pursuit of justice. We've journeyed deep into the psychological battlefield of the interrogation room, exploring the tactics, the risks, and the evolving ethical considerations. It's a complex, often morally ambiguous space where the pursuit of truth can sometimes clash with human rights. But what do you think? Have you ever questioned a confession you saw on the news? Do you believe certain interrogation tactics go too far? Or are they a necessary evil to catch dangerous criminals? This is a conversation that needs to continue. Your insights, your questions, your perspectives are incredibly valuable. So please share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss this critical aspect of our justice system. If you found this deep dive fascinating and you're curious about other hidden corners of law enforcement and true crime, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. And if you want to explore another side of crime, check out this video here, where we break down the psychology of eyewitness testimony, another area fraught with fascinating complexities. Thank you for watching, and remember, understanding the system is the first step to improving it.